up, YouTube? This is Ashen Wolf. I'm an extrasensory psychic. I am a shaman, completion process facilitator, parts work facilitator, coach, and you can find me on lushheartsblossoming.com. Hit the subscribe button and let's get started. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about how I almost died, how my mom almost died, and what that kind of does to your consciousness. We're going to get into this story very quickly, but stay tuned till the end because this is not just this bleak thing. This is how death can change your life. How this possibility of dying actually awakens you to your truth and how it can make the most profound difference on your life that you are living. So we're going to take this into a super inspirational message and really get you guys thinking. So please stay tuned with this story. Okay, so I have struggled with just food and weight and things since I was a young child. I grew up in a family where there was no boundaries and no education, and my parents kind of were letting me eat whatever I wanted. I had, when you're 5 years old and you start craving sugar and your mom has no boundaries towards the processed food and the sugar that the 5-year-old or the 2-year-old even wants, that's a big issue because I was too young to have any idea what I was putting in my body, right? I had no boundaries with food. I was addicted to unhealthy food. There was no real nutrition that was being given to me, and there was no real education. There was no real support. There was no real guidance. And I was also depressed from a very young age, and I was mostly isolated in my house. So it was like I wasn't moving either because I was a young child without a lot to do in my day, very alone, right? So what am I supposed to do? Run around in circles, right? So I was in an unnatural state. Anyways, in my adult life, because the weight stayed on throughout my childhood and my teen years, when I started figuring out education around what had happened to me and how to change it and stepping into my power, I got very misled down the path of veganism. Now, I have nothing against veganism, but what veganism did is I decided that if I was going to eat a diet that was vegan, it would automatically be healthier. And I created a belief around that. And then what happened is I wasn't reading product labels and things and all the junk that they like to put into vegan products. And I still didn't have enough education to know how dangerous sugar was, which sounds ridiculous. I was an adult, but I didn't, And so I was still eating too much sugar and these processed things, even as an adult. And I developed diabetes. I didn't just develop diabetes though. I developed diabetes without realizing it for long enough that the diabetes almost killed me. So I was in Utah at a wedding, my friend's wedding, at an intentional community gathering, and on the way back, on the airplane back, I'm with my friends, and I thought I was having a heart attack in the airport. And so they called the ambulance and I went to the Colorado hospital, and there I was told I had diabetes. I thought I was dying. I was not, but it felt like it. And what continued to happen is that the experience that I had where it felt like I couldn't breathe and where it felt like I was having this heart attack continued for the next 2 months, where I would have these attacks almost on a regular basis where my blood sugar would go too high and it would literally feel like I was dying. It felt like I was having a heart attack. It felt like I couldn't breathe. And I was terrified that I was going to die. When I was in the ambulance, when I was in the hospital, I had gone through thinking that this could be it for me. And I had gone through really letting that sink in. What if this is the last time I see my mom? What if this is the last time I see my dad? I'm in a foreign country right now. What if this is the last time I see my brother ever, right? And this kind of happened to me where my life was flashing before my eyes over and over again for about a 2 to 3 month period of being in serious health condition. And what happens with that is you finally get serious. I stopped making excuses about why I was overweight or why I was undereducated because of my family and my past. And I stepped into my power to actually educate myself and actually understand what it was I needed. And for the first time in my life, I understood that sugar was a no for me. And I made an absolute rule of no sugar. And essentially, I do consume some things like lucama powder and maple syrup and agave. But for the most part, 98% of the time, I do not consume any sugar. If I am consuming sugar, it's a small amount that is in something else that I deem healthy enough or in my diet. I immediately went in search of a way to become healthy again. And every time it felt like I was dying, I came back to this moment with my guides and my angels where it was like, okay, if I make it through this, I promise I'm going to take my life seriously. I promise I'm going to take my life into my own hands. I promise I'm going to do something differently. Because when your life is flashing before your eyes and the path to even be alive is being taken away from you, you get fucking serious. You get fucking serious in that moment and you're like, okay, what the fuck do I want to do with my life? If I am allowed to live another day, what does my life look like from there? What does every day look like from there? And it's no longer this thing where you're this complacent human being that's depressed and moaning about everything that's wrong with your life. In that moment, when it's between life and death, you don't give a beep about all the things that are against you in your life, all the things that you've been through, all the things that are wrong. The only things that you care about is how to make your life better, how to take responsibility for your life, and how to do it differently. You step into your power and you say, okay, I'm going to take control of my life. And for me, that was cutting out sugar and finding a way to lose the weight and finding a way to reverse my type 2 diabetes. And what I found was a smoothie cleanse, which I ended up doing for 30 days, where it was 800 calorie smoothies that had been completely designed for people with diabetes. And this allowed me to lose 25 pounds. Now, I took a little break with this cleanse and I just maintained the weight that I was at, and now I'm doing another 30 days of that cleanse and I am planning on losing another 20 to 30 pounds with this smoothie cleansing. And I'm on this path where it's like I'm not stopping until I am healthy, and I am not stopping until I feel good, right? And this also led me to take exercise and joy also into my hands. So another huge thing that changed in my life is I started to dance every day and sing and do qigong. I started going on these 4-hour walks once a day and really just allowing myself to get into nature, get the exercise that I needed to move my body, to not stop moving my body, to not make excuses, and to be 1000% disciplined no matter what occurred. It was my birthday. I was at a birthday party with like 6 of my friends. We were in nature, having an amazing time in the forest, making a fire. It was winter, and it's my birthday and I'm smoothie cleansing and I'm not eating anything special for my birthday and my friends are offering me the brownies or the cupcakes that I bought them and I'm like, no, I'm not putting that in my body. I'm smoothie cleansing today. I don't care, it's my birthday, and no, I won't take a bite. I took initiative over every area of my life that was not going right, that I was not taking full responsibility for. And the reason that we don't take responsibility for our life is because we feel powerless and we feel depressed. and we feel the weight of the story that we've been through, right? This story in our head of everything that's gone wrong for us and everything that's against us, and our contrast and the consequence of who our diversity is. When it comes to your life, you stop making excuses. I was very much working towards empowerment, but I wasn't taking initiative in all areas of my life and to the degree that I needed to be for my progression. And it took almost dying and almost falling over to get me to do it. It made me stop making these excuses and to stop having this pity for myself and living in this powerlessness. And instead it creates this mentality where it's like, how am I going to do it differently? And the next thing that I did to take responsibility over my life is I left a 7-year relationship. I was in a relationship with a man that, yes, I was in love with, and he was in love with me, but he did not treat me right. And in fact, he was very abusive. And even though he said all of the right things and was fun and loving some days, there was all of this, him not taking responsibility for life and putting all of this toxic energy of life will never be okay and there's nothing going right with my life onto me. And he would tell me lies, because on one hand he would say, oh, you're so hot and you're so beautiful, but then on the other hand he would say, oh, you need to lose some weight and I don't like your body, right? So he was contradicting himself, and he was constantly making me feel like he wasn't into me and like I wasn't this woman that deserved someone who had someone that was into her, right? And I said, fuck that. And I broke up with him. And even though what had kept me from breaking up with him is that he was suicidal, and I was literally the only person in his life who cared about him. And so that's what kept me from breaking up with him for those 7 years, was because he was attributing not dying to me, right? And we had kind of bonded based on our trauma, because I really, really related to the trauma that he had been through in a different way. So I broke up with him. And I said, we're going to still be friends. And, I'm sorry that your life is hard. And I'm sorry that you're in so much pain. And I'm sorry that you want to literally kill yourself. And I'm going to be here for you. But I'm not going to be your girlfriend anymore. We're not going to live together. And, I can be here for you in a way that's healthy for me. And now I've no longer made it my responsibility or my issue or my problem that there is a human being going through so much suffering and pain, because it affects me that he's suffering, but there are so many beings on this planet suffering, and by me stepping into what is most self-loving for me, I'm going to be able to serve the most amount of people that are suffering on this planet, right? And so I no longer made it my responsibility that he was going through that, and that I was keeping him afloat and that I was being the difference for him. And instead I said, you know what, once in a blue moon, we will hang out and I will be there for you. And once in a blue moon, we will talk. And that's about all the friendship I can offer you. And I can still see that makes a big difference in his life. And it's a situation that never occurred to me when I was stuck in this feeling that me leaving him could mean him being suicidal, or me actually finding him dead, or him actually killing himself, right? So this was the thing that kept me from leaving a relationship that wasn't healthy for me, when in reality, I don't think he's much worse off facing himself and facing the loneliness he feels, because he still has me to show up for him once in a blue moon. And ultimately, me not being there babying him every day is going to send him on his progression to step into his power and to do something or to not do something. But now he's going to figure out what he is going to be doing with his life, right? And the next thing that happened is I went on a path of empowerment in my dating life, right? I had just broken up with a man for 7 years, and oddly enough, I had the funniest reaction in the world, because most women, when they break up with a man, they're, crying about that man and blah, blah. Me, I was partying, to be honest. I was the happiest woman alive. I feel like I had gotten out of prison. I did have some days where I cried and grieved the relationship, but I had much more days where I was partying and I was celebrating. And I went back on dating sites with a completely fresh eyes. When I had gotten into the dating world, when I had gotten into my last relationship, I was a completely different person. I hadn't done any healing. I felt like shit about myself, and I took whatever came to me, right? This time around, that was not the case. I had thousands of men who were approaching me and wanting to go on a date with me and who thought I was a queen. I literally had men saying I would make their life if I spoke to them. I had men who, basically having a date with me was the best thing in the world. I went on a date with this cute Indian man who wanted to bring me an orchid because it was my favorite flower, and he kept on saying how this was the best date of his life and he was so happy and blah blah blah. I was the most beautiful woman. And anyways, I was in contact with all these men that thought I was the most beautiful woman on this planet because I thought that about myself. Now I now felt that I am just as beautiful as any other woman, and in fact, I am one of the most beautiful women because I love myself and I love how I look exactly as I am with my diversity. I started getting into these standards with my health. I started getting into these standards in my dating life, and the new standard was I was gonna find a man that was absolutely obsessed with my body, that absolutely loved how I looked, that wanted me so much, and that was conscious and loving, and he was the kind of relationship I was looking for. And that's exactly what I found in my boyfriend. I found my soulmate in a relationship. I found somebody who was emotionally available. I found somebody who's obsessed with me, who literally texts me every morning and every night just to wish me good morning and to say good night. I found a man that texts me multiple times a day how much he loves me, how I'm the most beautiful girlfriend in the world, how I'm the best girlfriend in the world, and how grateful he is for me, like multiple times a day. And, you know, when we're together, we hold each other in our arms and we just swoon over each other and we have the best sex. That was another thing that happened, is that I had sexual PTSD and I had a lot of resistance to my sexuality. And so these were also another layer of things that I faced. And now I came to really embrace my sex life. And it's still a journey for me to 100% find how to have the best sex and how to get super turned on. But I'm in a place now where I can say that I do have amazing sex and I do embrace my sex life and my sexuality in a way that I never have before. So literally everything in my life changed and shifted with the changes that I made. And it all started with feeling like I was dead. It all started with literally my life passing before my eyes. Another thing that happened during this period of time is that my mom almost died. I found her in her bed, almost dead already. She could not walk. It took me and the ambulance people having to carry her onto a stretcher. And they told me that if she had arrived at the hospital 30 minutes past when she had, that she would have been dead. She was in an ambulance on her way to the hospital. I had no information and I didn't know if I would ever see my mom again. My mom being taken away from me, my life being taken away from me. These are the things that come up in your life that really make you take control and initiative. But do you want to wait until something so bad that has to happen for you to actually step into it? Like, the thing is that people go through their life being passive and complacent and not making the changes they need to from this place of depression and powerlessness. And it's this kind of victim energy and this I can't do it attitude. And even when they're making changes, they're not making enough changes, right? And then the universe pushes them. When you're not making enough changes in your life and you're not taking enough responsibility for the life you want to be living and for your desires and for your dreams, the universe pushes you and they give you an ultimatum. And that ultimatum is, do you want life or do you want death? Do you want to lose the person you love or not, right? It has to get so bad. It has to get so horrible that you have this choice point that you're left with, red pill or blue pill. Don't wait until the universe breaks the box that you have been living in. I want you to imagine that you were in a position like me where the person that you loved the most was going to die tomorrow, or you were going to die tomorrow. And I want you to really let that sink into your heart. Because that's the thing with these experiences, is that it rattles your whole being. It's not just this exercise that this person on YouTube is giving you anymore. It's like every aspect of you, every cell in your being, your heart just breaks open, right? You're in tears when this happens. Everything in that moment wakes you up and knocks you over the head. So I want you to actually put yourself into that experience. I want you to actually break yourself down into that awareness. I want you to actually let this idea and this exercise rattle every cell in your being. And I want you to actually break through all those constructs of complacency and whatever, and kind of being on the surface of the exercise. And I want you to actually get down into the reality here. What if this happens? I want you to let it rattle you in that moment. And I want you to take that awareness and decide, what am I going to do with my life? What can I do differently? If I'm going to put depression and powerlessness and all of these stories that I have in my head about why I'm not going to make my life better, if I would put those aside and instead let the moment, the fleeting moment that is my life and breath and heart beating, and the people that I love being alive or not alive, if I would let that reality sit in, if I would actually let it alter me and shake me and move me, what would I actually do in that moment? If I actually went through that experience where the universe had to completely push me over and break me, what would I actually do? Which consequences do you want to choose? Moving forward with a different path, the consequences that could be down that path, or the consequences of living the life that you're already living and not changing a thing? And just imagine yourself living 10 years from now going the same way that you're going, and ask yourself, is it really enough? Because that's the thing, is that we convince ourselves that we're doing enough. We convince ourselves that we're doing everything in our power, and we convince ourselves that we're trying hard enough to make our life different. And you're not going to feel the same way when your life is flashing before your eyes. You're not going to feel like you're doing enough for your life, and you're not going to have the same stories of powerlessness. You're going to take full responsibility, and you're going to say, let's do this. And you stop making all of these stories about the consequences of doing more and making the hard decisions, right? It wasn't easy to decide to completely change my diet. It wasn't easy to live on 800 calories a day and still go to work and, feel my body starving itself in order to lose that weight, and still going on walks with my friends and to my birthday party. And it wasn't easy to break up with someone I had been living with for 7 years, right? These things weren't fun. They were the hardest experiences in my life, some of them. And I did them knowing that that was what was self-love, and that was what was taking power back in my life, right? We don't actually get into reality with what really needs to be done to make the changes in our life, right? Because it's hard, or because we have stories about why we can't, and we feel depressed, and we feel powerless, and we feel complacent, and we feel passive, and we feel like, why should I? Why should I make life better? And it's from this belief that we feel like life is never going to get better no matter what we do, so why should we try, right? And we have to question that shit. And we have to get into a reality with that part where we're like, listen, this is your life. It is a fleeting moment. Life and breath is right now. So what life do you want to be living? What do you want to do with your life? And what experiences do you want to have? Do you want to keep going the way that you're going? Do you want to keep experiencing this? Do you want to keep on letting life be this thing that's not desirable, that's not completely what you want? Or do you want to do everything in your power, like everything in your power, to be the person that you actually want to be, to actually live the life that you want to live, to actually take full initiative of creating a life that is desirable and a life that feels good? It's up to you, because this is life and it's short. So what do you want to do with your life?